Hi, everyone.
Hello, friend.
I'm Reenie. I have Tori. Welcome to Into the Legit Darkness. This is actually a true crime podcast. But today, since my first show, I actually had Tori come on with me, and we are actually going to talk about the Kathy Tucker case. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to talk about Tori's books and how they are actually tied into the crime thing, even though they're at haunted locations. Right?
Reunited.
Yes, reunited. All right, so let's get started on that, shall we? So, Kathy Tucker was obviously a 15-year-old girl. You remember that?
Mm-hmm.
And she, let's just put it this way, December 2nd, she went ahead and why it was out on that really horrible, icy, winter, stormy day. She decided she was going to go hang out with her friends up at the bowling alley. It's a small town, so obviously we all know that, you know, you can kind of do whatever you want in the winter. So, anyways, her dad brought her up to the bowling alley, and she was supposed to call for a ride about 10 o'clock. Is that what I was remembering, Tori?
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Yeah, it was about 10 o'clock. Um, just because she wanted to hang out with her friends. Unfortunately, that call never came through at 10. So what ended up happening was there was many sightings around town with Kathy. Remember, the first sighting was when she was up at the bowling alley
Mm-hmm.
and she had a conversation. Well, she was technically on the phone, and a guy named Wally Davis went ahead and he came up and talked to her. And obviously, this is a grown man. It wasn't, a kid her age because she was 15. So he's probably what, in his 20s, 30s at the time. And we're actually going to be really careful about this because there is some people, or I should say not people, but relatives that, Wally Davis has, Kathy Tucker still has cousins out there, and family for that matter, brothers, all kinds of stuff. So obviously we know this is an open case kind of still. Anyways, she was seen up at the laundromats, had a telephone call. Well, she was on the phone with somebody, but we don't know who technically. I'm going to assume, I don't want to say assume, but allegedly she was like on the phone with a friend. But what friend? We don't know. So there was somebody that's seen her talking to Wally. Then story goes on is she supposedly got in the car with Wally to go out of town, and that's when the fire happened. There was an abandoned house. The alarms went off. I believe we said at it was probably 7 o'clock, somewhere around there. Now, mind you, to get out of that town, it was icy. It was something that should have taken like 2 minutes probably to get out to that farmhouse. Actually took them about 20 minutes, we'll say. We'll say give or take, considering the weather. Anything you want to add? Can I that you want to say something because I can see it.
I remember us talking about this case, and I wish for Kathy Tucker's family, though, well, you know what I mean. I wish for Kathy Tucker's family that this would have been solved, and I think that just knowing some of the stuff that maybe the public doesn't know per se, things that we've talked about, theories, scenarios, assumptions, whatever you want to call them, I think it could have been. I think it could have been solved, but unfortunately it wasn't.
Right. And like I said, I believe that she was okay. And I just want to go back. She was found at the burning farmhouse the next day by her dad. The firemen did say that her body, they did not think that her body was out there because you could actually smell and I'm just going to be honest, you can actually smell what a burnt body smells like, and that's not something that they would,
Burning
ever,
skin.
ever forget.
Yeah.
And the only reason that they pinned it on Wally is because, she was sided with Wally. And he was in trouble before, but we're not going to get into what he was in trouble before. We're not gonna say that. And the reason why I don't think it's Wally, and this is just my opinion, is I don't think he had enough time.
Mm-hmm.
To be honest with you. But they did find the next day, her dad found her. The only issue that I have with that is because if he didn't get a phone call at 10:30 like he was supposed to in the first place,
Mm-hmm.
why wait until 4 o'clock in the morning to like go and start looking for your daughter? And what would make you want to a burning like a farmhouse? Now, mind you, this was a rundown farmhouse. It didn't have windows. There was no doors. It was cold that night. I mean, it was dead of winter. What would make you want to go and honest to godly look in a burning building or
Right.
something that burnt down the day before?
Right.
And all he could say is he had epiphany.
Which is kind of interesting because what he calls an epiphany is what we would call psychic ability or mediumship or whatever you want to call it. I mean, not necessarily mediumship, but psychic ability. So it kind of falls in that paranormal category in a way. Because the police, they went off of this epiphany that he had, and
but
there
I
we
guess
are.
let's think about this. Like, I feel like it was a cover-up. Reason being, okay, how are you just going to say, hey, it's just Wally. It was just Wally. Let's just pin it on Wally just because she was last seen with him. I mean, I could be like last seen with you and they could say, okay, well, you're the one that murdered her. Well, why? Because I was last seen with you. I mean, we gotta factor in too. This was in 1978. Okay, and we all know this is like one of my favorite cases, and I can ramble on about this. But to this day, I do believe that like somebody knows who did it, and I always thought that it was her dad that kind of did, because again, we don't technically know what kind of stuff she was actually into. I mean, and how can I put this? Her dad was an ex-sheriff. So, I mean,
now,
that's easy to cover
wasn't
up.
it with the case itself? Like that building was on fire. The fire department went out there, put out the fire, and then went home. And then he had this epiphany, went back out there, found her body there.
The next morning.
I kind of feel like, I don't know, like I feel like the fire department would have located the body once they put the fire out, but that's just my opinion.
Well, again, there was an interview with one of the firemen that was on call that night, and he claimed that he didn't smell any. Like I said, I don't really want to get into that, but he didn't see anything when they put the fire out. He didn't see anything. There was nothing there. So, which brings me to my next point. If her clock stopped at 7:35, right? In my opinion, I know that they said that her watch supposedly stopped at, like I said, 7:35, and it could have been because of newspaper articles and such. They said it was probably because of the fire. But she was stabbed how many times? There's no way in heck that she's going to be stabbed out there in the meantime while they're putting out a fire.
Right.
I think
I kind of wonder if she was moved there later.
I think she was, and it was a very convenient thing. If you think, I mean, at the end of the day, There wasn't,
Yeah.
but then Wally was spotted all over town that day. Like, he, at this point, which is now a pizza place, okay, which technically was the movie theater, he supposedly went over and had to do something over there. I don't know, help. I don't know. I guess maybe he was like a maintenance man type thing over there. So he was spotted over there, according to his ex-wife. Okay, but they did. So everybody's.
I don't know where she went. Well, I'm Tori. I'm just going to fill in, I guess, until she gets back. I know that we were going to talk about my books at some point, so I can just start talking about that until Reenie gets back on the show. I'm not really sure what happened. Let me check here. Okay. So my name is Tori. I am the author of what I call the We Are series. I've done a total of 6 books. I'm working on my 7th. These, I'll show you. This one is, my dog peeled out on that one. That's why it's all torn. But this is We Are Edinburgh Manor. This is the 2nd one that I've ever done. I just released a new version of We Are Malvern Manor. Basically, this is a handbook for paranormal investigators, and what I do is I go into the research aspect of some of the most iconic paranormal locations that are across the country. I've done Malvern Manor, I've done this Edinburgh, I've done Randolph County Infirmary, and I've done one book of, there's 5 of Asylum 49, and I am working on McIntyre Villa. So when I made these books, I made these geared towards the paranormal investigator. And I go in and I try to locate every death that I can find documentation of, or every death that I can prove. This one in particular in Edinburgh Manor, I found, I believe it was 234 deaths. So the way that these books work is each person has a page within the book. It is in alphabetical order by first name, and the name appears in the lower right-hand corner of the book. This is so when you're flipping through, you can find where you're at in the book quickly and easily. That's so that way you can locate who you could potentially be talking to. It's in alphabetical order by first name, simply because if you're using a communication device like an SB7, Spirit Box, Ghost Tube, whatever, Necrophonic, Spiritus, whatever it is that you use, you usually get a first name. Very rarely do you ever get like a first and last name or just the last name. But in the event that you do get a last name, I have indexes in the back that put them in alphabetical order by last name, year of death, and month of death. So that maybe you guys, you could potentially find information that coincides with what you're doing, or stuff that helps you, basically gives validity to your investigation and what you're doing. They have, some of these have death certificates, not all. I don't know where Rainey is yet. She's not back. But this is an example. This is Catherine Rosencrantz. This is her death certificate. Death certificates are an excellent source of information simply because you can find a lot of stuff on there. You can find their name, you can find where they died at, you can find where they're buried at, what funeral home they went to. Sorry, I'm checking my messages here. Reenie's trying to get back in. She can't get back in. I'm telling her to message. So sorry. She's still trying to get in. Here, let me see if I can. There we go. Anyway, we are talking, so death certificates. Death certificates are kind of like an interesting thing. They go by state by state. So not every state considers death certificates public domain. Not every, like Kansas does not consider death certificates public domain. So in some cases, in some states like McIntyrville is not going to have any death certificates because I don't have access to that. Iowa doesn't consider it public domain until they've been dead for 75 years. So you only have death certificates up until about 1945, right around in there. And then they didn't even really start keeping death certificates until about, depending, about 1899 to 1904. So any death that happened from, I think it was 1899 in Iowa, all the way up until 1904, we have a death certificate if I could find it. There is, can you add? Let me see. Hold on just one second. Wait. I'm so sorry, guys. We're trying to get Reenie back in here. I don't know what happened. We're trying to, oh wait, here. Oh, okay, I see her messages on the thing. 1 second, guys, I'm so sorry. Let me see here. Let me see. All right. I'm so sorry. As soon as we get Reenie back in here, we'll start talking about the Kathy Tucker case again. We're just having a little bit of technical difficulty here. Anyway, so there are a lot of secretarial issues sometimes when the information is being put into the data bank. So not everybody has the correct spelling of the name. So there was a lot of challenges in some aspects of trying to find the name that I found in a newspaper versus the death certificate. Sometimes they were completely different, and I don't know which one was the correct spelling. But we have death certificates, we have newspaper articles, death announcements, obituaries, and each person has everything that we could find on them. This is a good example of somebody that I couldn't find much on. This was Catherine Farrell, and this is the only thing that's on her page. So basically, we know that she died on the poor farm because there was documents saying that she did, but there was nothing that I could find otherwise. No death announcement in the newspaper, no death certificate because she died in 1898. The only reason why we know that she died there was because the poor farm records had shown that she had. People aren't really familiar with poor farms. Edinburgh Manor is a poor farm. Randolph County Infirmary was a poor farm. Poor farms were basically like, it was kind of like state assistance, or what we would refer to as welfare today, if that's what you want to call it. They were made for people who couldn't afford to live on their own. They were poor, they were sick, elderly people that had any kind of mental incapacity of any sort that didn't have someone to care for them usually went to the poor farm. And poor farms were self-sustaining communities, basically. And what they would do is the county was responsible for the care of all of these people, and the government required each county to have a poor farm, and they were typically called, like, for Edinburgh, for example, is in Jones County, Iowa. So it would be called like Jones County Farm, Jones County Poor Farm, the Jones County Almshouse. They were also called almshouses. And the people would go there, and the county would have the able-bodied work. The people that couldn't work, they did as much as they could. They had their own fruit trees. They had their own garden. They raised their own beef, pig, chickens, anything that they could use to basically self-sustain their little community that they had going on. Poor farms were typically about 150 acres on average. Sometimes they were bigger, depending on the amount of people that they had in it. And whatever they didn't eat themselves or use themselves, that they would sell out into the community. Like, they would make their own butter. If they have extra, then they would sell that off to people in the community. And then that's how the poor farm would make some extra cash to put back into the community, basically, so that they could buy like medications, clothes, blankets, that kind of thing. Poor farms kind of have a special place in my heart. I'm not gonna lie. They're among my favorite things to research. What else can I tell you? Because I don't have anybody to converse with right now, so I feel like I'm just rambling. This is the first time this has ever happened to me, but hey, we're gonna wing it. We got this. The books, I feel, are informative because I am really big in memorializing the dead, and a lot of times these people didn't have any families, and they didn't have anybody that really cared about them. A lot of newspaper articles were just kind of like that. There was just a simple death announcement. For those that don't have the video, for Eunice Holtenbach, her only article was Miss Eunice Holtenbach died at the county home, and that was in 1897. And that's all that we got. Of course, we don't have a death certificate because it was prior to 1899. One of the other books that I just released, a new book, is We Are Malvern Manor. These books come in either paperback, so if you order off of Amazon, if you order off of Lulu, you will get a paperback version. If you order directly through me, you can get a spiral bound copy. The spiral bound copies were made specifically so that they would stay open on the page that you were on, so you didn't have to worry about your book flopping back closed when you had a page open that you wanted to stay on. These are meant to be marked up, marked in, highlighted, papers, folded. There's note sections in the back. There's pictures, census records, plat maps, all kinds of good things. I have an interesting news section, and that's basically news articles that had anything to do with any of the news that happened within whatever book I'm talking about. This is the new We Are Malvern Manor, and this was my very first book that I ever made, so I had a lot of learning to do when this book was originally made. I have written 5 books since then, so I decided to go back and revamp it. The old Malvern Manor had 168 names. The new one has 184, I believe. And I made it up to par with the rest of the books that I've done. So one cool thing about We Are Malvern Manor is that I was able to find publicly printed pictures of some of the residents that used to live there. This is about Malvern Manor that's located in Malvern, Iowa. It's a paranormal hotspot. It's a bookable location. You can rent it for overnights and do paranormal investigations in it. It was built in, I want to say, the late 1860s, and it started off as like a boarding house, and then it turned into the Cottage Hotel. And it ran as such all the way up until about 1955 when it turned into a nursing home. And for the remainder of its years, it pretty much was a nursing home for let's see, I think they closed in 2004, if I remember right. Also, another thing that I forgot to mention, these books also have resident spirit sheets. The resident spirit sheet, this is for Jeff, and he's up by the attic that goes up to the attic. He is the last room on the right-hand side. Resident spirits are the spirits that have interaction within the building itself. These are the people that you can expect interaction from, or that mostly interact with investigators that go. The resident spirit sheet tells you what to expect from that spirit and where you can find them from the front door. There are 11 in Malvern Manor, I believe. This is an example of like the picture section for Malvern Manor. I think one of the coolest things, and if you ever book a night there, you can view them, but there are scrapbooks that were left in the manor that had pictures of the residents and stuff that you can look at. There's the indexes and notes section for the book. Reeni is trying to get a hold of the person that's running the podcast. She's trying to get a hold of Mike, and she has unsuccessfully done so at this particular point in time. So maybe me saying it will catch his attention. I don't know. But let's see. I can show you guys. This is the Children of Asylum 49. Let me make sure I don't have any comments over here. I don't even know if anybody's watching, but we're just kind of going with it. But Children of Asylum 49, I will say that this is one of my favorite books. It is everybody under the age of 18 that died in Asylum 49 located in Tooele, Utah. And in here, I gotta find some of these cute kids. Utah is a state that has death certificates, so we have as many death certificates as I could find. Like I said, not everybody had one publicly released. Most of them did, but not all of them, or at least if I couldn't find them, they didn't have one. One of the saddest things in here is there is a death of a young girl. And then, like 2 weeks later, her young sibling died of, I believe it was pneumonia. And then shortly after that, their mother committed suicide. It was Deborah Harris. Deborah Harris's brother Michael passed away 28 days later from pneumonia. Their headstones are combined. On August 23rd, 1962, their mother Margie unfortunately took her own life. Her death certificate will be on page 186 in the interesting news section. And then, so her children died in 1957. So it was really cool trying to put together all of these stories. Man, I am terrible at this. There we go. Well, maybe. I'm peering under my book. I look like a creeper. But if you want any of these books, you can contact me. I can get spiral copies for you. I have PayPal links and all that good stuff. If you would rather not deal with me, you can order them on Lulu and shortly on Amazon, probably within the next couple of days or so. Let me see. I'm gonna see if let me see if I can do something here. 1 second. That's not it. That's not it. It's hard to talk about myself. I don't have any engagement, so I don't. Oh boy. I'm talking to Reenie. She's backstage, but we can't get her actually on the program is the problem. So it's like even if I wanted to end the show, like I couldn't. You guys would just be I mean, I don't know what would happen if I put leave studio. Like you guys may just be staring off into outer space. Like I don't even know at this point. So I'm gonna check the comments here and see if anybody's commenting or watching. If you are, please feel free to engage. Actually, Reenie, open up YouTube in your other thing and then comment on the live chat. Then you can interact there. I mean, it will be in chat form, but anybody else that may be in the room would be able to see what you're saying. Maybe that will. And then I'll just read your comments out loud so that when it's posted later for like Spotify or whatever, everybody knows what you're saying. I am working on a new one called We Are McIntyre Villa. That is about McIntyre Villa, located in Atchison, Kansas. My first time there was October of 2022 was the first time that I went into that I went into the villa. It's about a 5,000 square foot Victorian mansion that was owned by John McIntyre. I'm working with the owner on making a book about all of the crazy, cool, creepy things that happened in that house, and I'm really looking forward to releasing that. I don't know what to say. I thought I was gonna save it, Rainy, or at least a little while until you got back, but I'm not really sure. Oh, what is happening? Let me see. What if I click on having issues here? Now watch it kick me out. That's not gonna help. Let me see. I am so sorry, guys. What is it that you want to do, Reenie? Do you want me to just leave the studio and then we can try again next week? Actually, you know what? We're just gonna, no, I can't because I'm in my AirPod. I was just going, oh, yeah, I can. I'm just gonna call you. How about that? I'm gonna put you on speakerphone.
Hello?
Okay, you're on speakerphone on the show. This is what I could think of to do.
Okay.
So I tried to save it, and I don't know what else to say. So this is the best that I could come up with.
Thank you.
So do you have any questions about anything that I said?
No, just like by the books. Let's just go back to the Kathy Tucker
Okay.
situation.
Okay.
Okay. I'm gonna meet you on here. My computer. So again, we were talking about Kathy Tucker case before, here we are.
Yeah.
Again.
What exactly happened? Can I just ask?
Basically, we like this whole thing. I don't know. I just got kicked out for some reason, but that's that. But anyways,
I'm just gonna stop my camera because I'm just like my big fat face is just like plastered on it. So go ahead.
Okay, so let's just go back to that. So basically, thank you, Tori, for having to do it this way. Anyways, we left off basically at the fact that she was found in the farmhouse, and she went ahead and she was burned. But we do know that she was stabbed 3 times, correct? And they are claiming that when her her watch stopped at 7:35, they're claiming that it got hot enough to do that. But if she was put there, and she was, obviously, if somebody was going to try to harm you and if she was stabbed, we're going to be honest and say that she was going to put up a fight. Am I right or am I wrong here?
I would think so.
Well, of course you're going to put up a fight. You're not just going to, just kind of get away with that.
Right.
So, anyways, she could have accidentally knocked her watch off, fighting off her attacker at the end of the day.
Right.
So, basically, I will say, the next day her dad had that epiphany that her daughter, his daughter was out there. Now, personally, I would never go if my daughter was missing. He didn't even go start looking for her until like 4 o'clock in the morning. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So from 10 to 4, you're not going to look for your child. Like, and I get that it's a small town, but you're just not going to look for your child. Is basically what's going on.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Would
Yeah.
you go look in, an abandoned house
No.
that had a fire for your child?
Mm-mm.
No. So anyways, the only reason I got pinned on Wally was because, he was last seen with her, but somebody did follow his car out of town, but I don't think Kathy was in there. Personally, it was Kathy's friends that were in there.
Right.
So at the end of the day, just because Wally's in a car, which is an adult, shouldn't be in the car with like 15-year-old kids in the first place. But, back then things were a little bit different.
Right. What year did you say?
That she was murdered?
Yeah.
It was 1978.
I'm looking for a death certificate. That's why I asked.
There is no death certificate on that, which makes it a little complicated if you think about it.
Well, she has to have one. Now, it may not be
but here's
public.
The thing. I have dug up so much information on this, and even her cousin has said he cannot find a death certificate. None.
He should be able to. He should be able to. Well, they may only provide it to the next of kin. Like since she has a living parent or whatever.
Well, right, but what I'm saying is like it's not public. Obviously it's not public record.
Right.
Now, I have a couple theories on maybe who killed her. Okay, and I really want to take Wally off the table because I don't think that Wally did it.
Right.
And I've always said that from day one. You know this, correct?
Right.
And I always kind of said, well, it could have been her dad.
Right. I remember that.
Okay. But just because he had an epiphany because his daughter was out there really doesn't matter at the end of the day.
Right.
So,
well, let me ask you a question just while I'm thinking of it.
Go ahead.
Is this would his epiphany be centered, is this some place that she frequented, like that
Well, yeah,
area?
because it was an abandoned house and it was like a party house, you know what I mean? But it was outside in the country. So it was going to take a little bit to go out that way, if you think about it.
But I guess, at the end of the day, did he have a reason to look there?
I don't know, but could it be a parent's intuition? Because as parents, you and I are both parents. And we could, even though our kids may be in a little weird of mood, and in our intuition as mothers, or not mothers, but just parents in general,
right?
That could have been something else too. But he did testify in court because it was asked that.
Right.
But see, Wally got off on the whole thing because there wasn't enough evidence stacked against him for this murder.
Right.
That's what it comes down to at the end of the day.
Was it?
So anyways, what I'm trying to get at, I guess, would be there's nobody that basically, after Wally was basically acquitted of this, correct?
Uh-huh.
There's been nobody else questioned. Well, I'm sure that there was people questioned, but I think everybody just assumed that it was Wally. Well, Wally was spotted around town, according to some people.
Right.
But then again, the fire alarms went off. Where was Wally when that happened? Now, another thing is who started the fire?
Yeah. Good question.
Now, we could go with the theory, if you think about it. You know how teenagers are, right? And it could be one of those things where if I can't have you, nobody else is going to.
Right. I was trying to find a newspaper article that I could read.
There's tons of newspaper articles. There is a YouTube video on this. And again, it interviews some of her friends. And I've interviewed some of those people as well. And, it's been so long ago. I mean, probably 45, 46 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And, they don't have DNA testing like we have now.
Oh, I just saw a newspaper article from the Breeze Journal, and I think it's Breeze, Breese, Breezy, Illinois. June 1st, 1978. Kathy Tucker was presented to Carlisle 8th grade students awards. So she was
an honor student.
Yeah, she had, it's kind of faded out, so I couldn't see. Service awards. She got a service award. She had 7th grade high honors. She got an award for that. Let's see what else we can find. This is kind of cool, like being able to read.
Like old newspaper articles, and sometimes they are hard to read. To be completely honest with you, because sometimes I've had to zoom in myself.
So on December 5th, 1978, this is the Times from Streator, Illinois. Identify corpses, MDRH high school honors roll student. It says, dental records were used Monday to identify the body of a teenage girl found in the ruins of an abandoned farmhouse which burned Saturday night. The body has been identified as being Kathy Jean Tucker, 15, from Manook. Her body was found by her father Sunday when he searched through the smoldering debris of an abandoned farmhouse southwest of Manook and about 5 miles from the girl's home. A sophomore at Manook, Dana Rutland High School. Kathy had gone to the bowling alley at Manook Saturday night. When she didn't call her parents for a ride home at 10:15 p.m. Saturday, her parents called the Lanes to ask about her. They had taken her to the Lanes at 6 p.m. Saturday. Apparently, no one remembers when the girl left the teen gathering place. Her parents reported her missing to Woodford County Sheriff's Police at 3:30 a.m. on Sunday. Tucker, the girl's father, discovered her body at 11:30 a.m. Abandoned building.
Yeah, the abandoned building out there. But at that time, in the dead of winter, why would you go out there? There's no heat.
Right. Austin Lindley, owner of the abandoned farmhouse, said it was used by teens as a place to have parties. The fire was reported at 8 p.m. Saturday, and it is speculated that it began burning 1/2 hour earlier. The structure burned to the ground. No cause has been determined for the fire. Tucker told authorities that he had never been on the road of the abandoned farmhouse before, but something told him to go there. He said, "The Lord told me to check there." Cause of the teenager's death is still under investigation by Woodford County Sheriff's Department. Authorities are awaiting autopsy results and fire marshal reports. Kathy Jean Tucker was born March 4th, 1963 in Streator to Roger M. and Winifred Snyder Tucker. She was a member of the MDR High School Honor Roll and the 1978 Scholastic Bowl team, the girls' track team, and was a band member as a freshman. Surviving are her parents, 2 brothers, Timothy of Bloomington and Dwayne at home. Funeral will be at 2 p.m. Wednesday at First United Presbyterian Church in Minooka. Visitation will be from 4 to 9 p.m. today at Faulkner's Memorial Home in Minooka, with burial in Minooka Cemetery. So that is the article from December 5th, 1978 from the Times in Streator, Illinois.
I mean, the whole story is crazy. I mean, at the end of the day. And the truth of the matter is, I feel like that town of Minooka, there is somebody that knows technically what happened to her.
Right. This is crazy. So I just saw another article, December 16th, 1978. This is in the Pantograph, and that is out of, Bloomington. And it says, although a pathology report shows no signs of foul play, Woodford County authorities have not ruled out. The way they wrote this is weird. Woodford County authorities have not ruled it out in the death of Kathy Tucker. The body of the 15-year-old sophomore at Minooka Dana Rutland High School was found in the remains of an abandoned farmhouse which burned to the ground December 2nd, southwest of Minooka. The victim's father found the body. Firemen had apparently been within a few feet of the body when they fought the fire the night before. We're checking everything. Despite the autopsy report, there still could have been foul play involved, Durst said. The body was badly burned, the sheriff said. Durst said Friday he has assigned a second deputy to investigate the case. One has worked on the case since the body was found. The written autopsy report and the report from the fire marshal's office have not arrived yet. Let's see.
Yeah, but I guess the question, is always been one of those things. Like, when would somebody let's say that this wasn't like a premeditated thing, right? What happens if that house just really kind of just started on fire?
But how, if it was abandoned, it wouldn't have any way that, like, there's no electricity, there's no, I mean.
Well, what happens if it got struck by lightning?
In December?
True, too. I don't know. Another weird theory that I the way that you said it was like in December.
I mean, I'm in Kansas and there's thunder, snow, so I think it might be possible. Okay, so here I just on
but
that.
They did say it was arson, so somebody had to have started it.
Right. It wasn't the lightning. So here's an interesting little tidbit, because this is the first that I've seen about this. So it says, hold on, I gotta find my spot. It says, some persons questioned by police in the case will be asked to take lie detector tests. And then it says, notes written by Miss Tucker will be examined by a psychologist. They might be typical notes of a teenager, or they might have some hidden meaning, he said. He declined to say where the notes were found.
I've never heard that.
This is that same article. Actually, I'm gonna screen capture it for you. I'm gonna clip it and then I'm gonna send it to you. I don't ever remember hearing about any kind of note.
We've done this case before together, remember?
Yeah.
Do you remember a note?
I don't remember a note.
I've never heard of that.
Okay, so the way they have this whole paper laid out here, I don't know why, but it has like something about a purse snatching right next to it, and it appears it's part of the article, but it's not. Here, I'm going to send this on Facebook Messenger. I'm going to label it so you have where it's from. That's interesting. So, and it's in the bottom right-hand corner of that article that I just sent you.
Okay. I will have to double check that later.
Yeah. So it was talking about the notes written, and it says they were written by Miss Tucker and they will be examined by a psychologist.
Well, I guess my thing is, what would they need to be examined by a psychologist for?
Well, they said, like, also in that same article, they said they might be typical notes of a teenager, or they might have some hidden meaning. And they declined to say where the notes were found.
Okay, but hidden meaning, like that she was having some problems with whoever may have killed her?
Well, the way that I look at it, and I mean, I don't want to sound accusatory. You know, I'm just going to throw that out there. Like, those would be some heavy accusations to make, but it makes me wonder if perhaps she was speaking about somebody in her life, and what she was saying didn't necessarily make sense, and that somehow maybe she was trying to convey that she was in some sort of trouble, or something might be going on in her life, and trying to write it in a manner to where somebody would catch on if they were to ever read it.
Well, so kind of like in a code type of thing, like a teenager would do. I get what you're saying. I definitely get what you're saying. I mean, like I said, I've had my theories on who I think have killed her. I mean, would you say that you're pretty much in agreement with that?
Yeah. Yeah, I would. Let's see what else we can find here.
I mean, because at the end of the day, I mean, I guess to me, we have Wally Davis who's like walking around, right? And labeled as like a killer at the end of the day. But I feel like the town is a little divided on that though too. Because everybody's like, well, it was either her dad or Wally. I don't believe that it was Wally. I truly, truly believe that. It just wouldn't make any sense.
Right. So they wrote, in January, girl's death not of natural cause. So that was their ruling. Let's see.
Yeah, that was she didn't die of natural causes, right. Obviously. They kind of ruled on that though. Anyways.
Yeah, I was trying to kind of.
At first, I think that they thought that she may have.
I was trying to kind of create a timeline.
What do you mean?
Like, just for people that are listening, since it kind of got broke up.
I'm sorry, guys. We really are. We're really trying.
So I figured I'd try to kind of create a timeline. So she was killed in early December of 1978.
Right,
And
she was December 1978, and like I said, she was seen at the laundromat. Well, she was supposed to meet her friend at 6. Okay, I guess they just never met at 6. And then at 6:30, which is the weird thing, she was seen at the laundromat. Remember? Okay. She was talking to she was on the phone, the pay phones, because we don't have those anymore. You know what I mean? So definitely we have something on the order of, cell phones now, but, we had pay phones. So there was a pay phone in the laundromat. So that she was seen at 6:30. But at 7 p.m., there was no sign of Kathy. So it was probably around 6:30, 6:45, we'll say, that the fire alarms went off, right?
Mm-hmm.
Kathy's watch, or by 7:15, there was no traces of Kathy, right?
Mm-hmm.
7:35, her watch completely stopped. Again, they did say because of that 7:35 when her watch stopped was basically because it got too hot. But to be completely honest with you, I don't think that was the case. I do believe that she was trying to fight off her attacker at the end of the day.
So in this article also, January 6th, it said the fire was classified previously as undetermined or suspicious in nature. We can't prove arson and we can't prove accidental, and said the arson investigator at the time. It also says a spokesman for the sheriff's department said the pathologist ruled out death by natural causes after exhausting testing procedures to prove natural death. So they're just basically saying that it was not natural causes because they can't prove that it was a natural death. So essentially in January, they're saying they don't know. So they can't rule it natural. I mean, natural causes would be like an illness or a genetic disorder or something of that nature. But from all accounts, Kathy Tucker was a healthy 15-year-old girl, correct? She wasn't sick or anything like that.
No, she wasn't sick at all. I think, like I said, I don't think this was like something that was planned. I think it was something that was, I don't want to say accidental because it wasn't accidental, but right. I do want to say that I believe that, this just wasn't planned. And I'm wondering why some of her friends clearly haven't. I'm sure some of them were interviewed, but not all of them.
Yeah. I'm just kind of going through. The coroner's inquest into the death of Kathy Tucker is scheduled for 7 tonight at the Minook City building.
But then I guess the really odd thing is like, why after a year, like after the year of her murder, it was just kind of like, whatever. Why was it like kind of like swept under the rug?
The only thing that I could think of is they didn't have any leads, I would assume. So it said dried blood scraped from the articles of charred clothing aided in the identification of Kathy Jean Tucker, the 15-year-old Minook girl who was burned beyond recognition in a fire near Minook. Okay.
But they had to identify her, so they have to have some kind of.
Yeah, they said dental records, like
right.
in the December.
But they also at one point said hair, and then another article said, okay, well, it was just like half of her body. Well, we technically don't know. I mean, because we weren't there.
Right.
We're only going by, what has been written in the papers and, everything else at that point. And I've read way too many articles on this. It kind of makes your head spin just a little bit. But like I said, I don't believe it was Wally. And we are actually running out of time.
So here's an interesting article from March 26th of 79 in the Pantagraph. The title is "Psychics Gain Police Respect."
The what?
Psychics gain police respect. Kathy Tucker's mentioned in here.
Uh-huh.
When you know you haven't got very good leads and you want something, you try anything and everything, says Jim Durst from the Woodford County Sheriff. His department has used the Chicago psychic in the unsolved murder case of 15-year-old Kathy Tucker, whose burnt body was found in an abandoned house in December. We will probably know later on, but the psychic brought out some interesting points. He says, to start with, we didn't even give her the age or anything else about the victim. She told us. Let's see. I'm trying to hurry.
No, it's okay. I'm listening.
It's a very strange feeling to go up to this woman and tell her what I'm looking for, and she describes the area, and it's miles and miles away. She's found 20 missing or deceased persons for us since 1968. But it doesn't always work for this 54-year-old grandmother. What is her name? Let me see. So they consulted a psychic on the Kathy Tucker case. Dorothy Allison. That's her name. The psychic. So that might be another thing to look
Another
into.
piece of evidence.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
So I know that we have to wrap this up tonight. Yeah. And I'm sorry that we had a little bit of a little hiccup there, but that's our life.
Right. I mean, that's just the day, I think.
All right, we'll try this again next week, and hopefully we don't have a problem.
Right. Well, thank you for having me, and
thank you for saving me.
I don't know how much saving I did, but I gave it the old college try anyway.
Hey, you know what? We made it work. I guess that's all that matters.
All right. Well, you stay on the line because i'll talk to you here in a second, and I just want to say thank you for having me, and hopefully I'll be on again soon to chat about Kathy Tucker. All right, have a good night, everyone.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.